Okay, perfect. Well, hi everyone. It's so good to see you all again, and some of you I know for the first time. I'm Tracy Judge. I'm the founder of Soundings Connect, if we haven't met before, and welcome to the Reskill and Revive webinar series. And this is our platform discovery series. This is our very first of the platform discovery series. And for those of you that have been to Reskill and Revive webinars before, what we really try to focus on is what we think will help you now and in the future. As an industry, virtual events of our future, hybrid events, like as we transition back. This series, we will introduce different platforms. We're starting with Zoom, and we have more platforms to come. We are forming partnerships with virtual event platforms to give you the opportunity to get your hands on them and learn more about it, for you to be able to offer that service, and also for you to educate your clients. So today we have Kira and Megan with us to present for you. When we first started, when COVID first happened, the first thing we did was provide education and community for all of you. And we weren't too experienced ourselves as a team in virtual event platforms. So we were learning really quick as well. So Kira was really the Zoom ninja and learned whatever we needed to learn, and at a really accelerated pace. So she'll be talking to you about Zoom and what she's learned through that. And then we have Megan Powers here with us as well, which is super exciting. Megan and I have worked on projects together in the past, so it's really fun to have you here with us, Megan. And about a month ago, we were on a coffee chat call with freelancers, and Megan, you were specifically requested by our freelance community to present. So
I love that. That's so exciting.
So thank you so much for being here and delivering on their wish. So we appreciate it. So Kira, I'm going to turn it over to you to start with.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Kira, and thank you, Tracy, for the intro. As Tracy mentioned, I have been working a lot on Zoom. I wouldn't have expected to call myself an expert earlier this year, but as of starting in April 1st, we have launched 18 educational sessions, and I've had my hands in all of them, from anything from launching registration, building out breakout rooms, and then of course managing the platform on the day of. Now, with Zoom, they certainly are the pioneers in the virtual event cloud-based platforms, and they have a robust library of content. So that's how I learned, and I recommend that everyone start there as well. And with that too, them being pioneers, they are constantly updating their settings and offering new features as well. Now, with every event or meeting, you need to start with what are your meeting needs? And definitely that's something to keep in mind when choosing your webinar platforms. Now with Zoom, they offer two solutions for virtual meetings. You have Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars. What we're in right now, a Zoom meeting, I'm able to see all of your cameras on, you're able to see me. I'm able to take you off mute if you have something to share with the group. Where with a webinar, it is one way. You can only see the panelists and hosts' videos. They're the only ones that have audio privileges, and all of the attendees can interact through chat or in questions. Another thing to keep in mind is capacity. Zoom meetings will host up to 1,000 attendees. Zoom webinars now will go up to 5,000. With breakout rooms, you can only do up to 50 breakout rooms in a Zoom meeting, and you can only have up to 200 people per breakout room. Live streaming. both Zoom meetings and webinars, you can live stream the content to your social media or another website. And then finally, post-meeting reports. Zoom webinars does provide reports that shows who attended the webinar, how long they stayed logged on. So great information there. Zoom also provides hybrid solutions. So when we're back to meeting in physical spaces, it will integrate all of the technology in the room. So webcams, microphones, screens, integrates it all onto this nice control interface for you. And then you'll be able to communicate through Zoom meetings or webinars in a physical space. Now, a great thing about the Zoom rooms is it also provides room bookings. So you're able to book your rooms, sync it to your calendar. So if you have several rooms that your team is utilizing, you can use it for scheduling. Now I'm going to start sharing my screen and actually go on the Zoom platform and show you how to schedule a meeting, edit registration, set up breakout rooms, review all the different settings available, and then also how to go live. So make that transition. Do we have any questions before I start? No? Awesome. All right, so what you're seeing here is the Zoom admin platform. When you're starting to schedule a meeting, you can either start by scheduling a new meeting with the button here, or you can also set up meeting templates. So if you have a meeting that is reoccurring, that's an easy way to set those up. So diving right into the meeting settings, everything that I'm going to go over is customizable. So you're able to enter your event details, require registration. I did want to point out with registration, Zoom does provide that, but also you might have noticed Soundings Connect, we sometimes utilize our own registration. The reason being is because we want all the data in our CRM system. So we'll utilize that and then import all of the attendees directly into Zoom. Of course, with Zoom lately, security has been a big topic. So setting passcodes to enter, you can, of course, customize that, or having a waiting room set so that you're approving all of your attendees as they enter. Once again, video and audio, all customizable. Breakout rooms, you can create your breakout rooms here. You can add attendees to them. That way, when everyone enters the room, they're already pre-assigned. And as soon as you open the rooms, they can all go in. One other great feature that is pretty new to Zoom is the language interpretation. As I'd mentioned, they're constantly updating their settings and tools. This is a new one, so you're now able to invite an individual who's an interpreter to the meeting, and they can live interpret the content, and your attendees would be able to then choose which language they would like to hear. I just wanted to go over two other settings and tools that we utilize a lot, and that would be recordings. So the great thing about Zoom is we're recording our session right now, and it will put it right up here on the cloud for you, or you can save it to your desktop. I did want to mention with recordings, there are several different settings that you can have set while the recording is happening. So once it's done, you already have watermarks or audio transcripts. That cuts back on a lot of labor when it comes to editing videos. One other feature I wanted to share are reports. So they have quite a list, a library of reports that you can pull. This is definitely very useful for those who are project managing any group or many sessions. One last great feature about Zoom is the platform is very user-friendly. There's really only one place to go to make any sort of edits or customize any of the settings. And it's pretty easy. Your options are really just to toggle on and off. So again, very user-friendly. And then of course you have videos that will help you learn the settings and step-by-steps. All right, so now I'm gonna go into actual launching a session. So right now you are seeing my view is as a host. Now, before I launch an event or a meeting, I always want to check a couple of these settings before letting our attendees in. I check security, so making sure that the attendees can't share their screen, also making sure that their audio is muted as they enter. Also, recordings, so making sure that the recording is set. And then lastly, as your attendees are coming in, we have it set so that they're waiting in the waiting room. Always double checking to make sure that you're catching anyone new who's entering as the event or meeting is progressing. All right, so functionalities of Zoom and being able to collaborate. A couple settings or tools that we utilize. Of course, you have chat. I think everyone pretty much knows how to utilize that. I did want to mention with Zoom webinars, they now have Q&A, and they do have a setting where you can push up certain questions to the top of the queue so that your host or panelists can view those first. Screen sharing, of course, everyone is probably familiar with screen sharing. Really big, important thing to know when screen sharing is the difference between desktop view versus a screen view. Right now you're viewing my desktop, so you're able to see my Zoom room and all the different screens that I have up. Where normally I wouldn't use that, I would just want to be sharing my presentation screen. So really important to understand the difference between those two. And lastly, with collaborating, Zoom has some great tools for collaboration. One of those being the whiteboard, which I'll pull up right now. Oh, see, I already started drawing. So the whiteboard here, anyone can collaborate on here. There's different drawings and stamps, just different tools that you can utilize when collaborating together. And then lastly, we have Anecdote, which, sorry, the button isn't coming up for me, but it's the same thing as whiteboard, where you're able to draw on any sort of screen that's being shared, and both the host and the participants can take part in that. All righty. Any questions before I move on? No? Good? Great. All right. Last part that I wanted to share.
Kira, I'm sorry. I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I had actually texted you. How do you stop when you're entering a meeting to not have them share your screen? So because that happened by accident once on something where I actually hit it and I was able to pop up my computer and I was like, whoops.
Got it. So that would have been a setting on the back end in the Zoom admin panel. You can toggle on and off who can share screens.
So they just hadn't, the moderator hadn't done that. And
exactly. And you accidentally hit it.
The new default is for the presenter to have to give permission for anyone but themselves to be able to share. That's a new thing because I keep forgetting. And then people I'm in meetings with are like, can you let me share my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happened yesterday. So yes, that's definitely something that you as the host can prevent on the back end. Now, I did want to go over a couple limitations that Zoom has. You are
Here,
not.
before you move forward, you're not sharing your presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Nikki.
Kira, before you move on, can I ask you a question? It's Yinka.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you know about sharing music on Zoom? So I had an event where I had to do a Spotify playlist, but it shared my entire screen of the playlist. Do you know if there's a way to, I guess, separate that?
Yeah, definitely. When you are sharing or when you hit the share button, you can only share your computer audio. Is that what you were?
Okay, yeah, I think so. I think that was my question. So rather than them seeing my entire Spotify screen with the playlist, if I just do the audio, it won't show the actual Spotify.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So you would basically go, if you go into the share screen button, there's actually 3 tabs at the top. So it says basically, there's an advanced toggle. And then if you hit that advanced toggle, it'll give you the option that says just share computer audio. And that's how you'll be able to just share your audio with everyone.
Thank you, Nikki.
No worries.
Team efforts here. All righty. So I did want to go over, a couple limitations that Zoom has, or that I've encountered when working. Control of the attendee experience. I'm not able to control if you have your view in gallery versus speaker. Of course, when we have more of a panel discussion, we do announce a housekeeping where we do recommend that you go to speaker view. But that is something that as the host, I do not have control over the viewing experience.
Kira, is that true in both webinar and meeting, or just in meeting?
It's true in both.
Got it.
However, you are able to have 2 individuals share their screens at the same time now. But if you wanted to have 2 panelists up at the same time, that's not an option that you have. You are able to spotlight someone. So if you have, if you just want to have one person up on the screen at all time, even though you have different individuals talking, you are able to control that. All righty. Any other questions? Good. Okay. One thing that I've found a little bit difficult being a host most of the times is managing polls and breakout rooms. The host is the only one that has that power. Not even co-hosts are able to launch polls or breakout rooms. So if you have a situation where you are manually assigning individuals to breakout rooms like we've done in a past session, the host is the only one that can do that, so it can be a little time consuming. All breakout rooms close and open at the same time. So if you have pre-assigned individuals to rooms, when you open them, everyone's gonna move in and out at the same time. So if you only wanted 1 through 5 to go first, there's no way of managing that.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Kira, this is a great presentation, by the way. Just want to say that first off.
Oh, thank you.
I was on a Zoom platform where I was helping as a planner, and we were able to assign co-hosts. I'm not sure if you're going to touch on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And
so
co-hosts were able to move people around to breakouts.
Yes. So co-hosts are able to move in and out, but the initial assignment of people to rooms can only be done by the host.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Another limitation with webinars do not support breakout rooms. So with webinars, everyone is able to enter that main general session room together, but that's it. And then lastly, collecting registration fees. This is something that you're only able to do through webinars. Zoom meetings, you're able to set up registration, but you're not able to integrate any payment features. All now that we've talked about the bad, let's talk about the good. So a great advantage with Zoom, with them being the pioneer, is they have hundreds of applications that integrate into Zoom. And they definitely help with productivity. As I had mentioned with like the recordings, they definitely reduce labor as well. For instance, Zapier, which is an application that will trigger workflows between two, or trigger an action between two different applications. You can utilize it where Zoom, you set a template meeting, like a template meeting being meeting with a client. And then Zapier will then trigger a action item or an action in our CRM system so that it will remind the individual to, for instance, follow up with the client after the meeting. So it's just an easy way, one less thing that you have to remember, and just a great way to utilize technology right now. So I recommend that if you utilize Zoom and you utilize a lot of different project management or team collaboration applications, to definitely see what the availability for integrating with Zoom is. All righty. Any questions at this point? Awesome. Well, now that I've gone over a very high level of the tech available through Zoom, I'm going to turn it over to Megan, and she's going to speak to how to prep virtual speakers who will be presenting on these virtual platforms. So Megan, take it away.
I hit unmute and it didn't see.
There
We'll
we
talk about
go.
this. Sometimes the best plans, the best laid plans, right?
We even practiced that too.
We did. All right. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I am super happy to be with all of you. Hello, hello. As Tracy said, I'm Megan Powers of Powers of Marketing, and I am going to ask to make sure you all can see my screen. Yes? Yes? We good? No.
I think we're still seeing Kira's screen. Okay.
Okay.
Now we should be able to share. There we go.
All right. Thanks. All right, perfect. See, and we'll talk about this. Rehearsal sometimes solves things, but not always. All right. Hello, hello. Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you all. And in the short period of time that I have, this list will not be exhaustive, but it definitely will help you, help your speakers. It may help you yourself if you are a speaker. And some of this is just going to apply to anyone who's attending an online event or meeting. So I will, let's see, just real quick about myself. I am a speaker, a facilitator, a podcaster. I'm a writer at my core. I'm a strategist. I like to know why we're doing something before we do it. Marketing and communication are my jam. I have a podcast called Making a Marketer. I'm also an event professional. I've primarily worked on the tech side of things. I used to sell audiovisual production, and I work with companies who have event apps and that kind of thing. And I have a podcast called Inside Events. So if you haven't listened to that, be sure to check it out. I'm an adventurer. I like to jump off and out of things. And I am a sports fan. Go Niners. All right, so we're going to cover mindset. Speaking online is definitely different than speaking face-to-face, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about rehearsal, mixing things up, some variety is good, and engagement, which is kind of an overused buzzword, but sometimes there is just no better word. Okay, so mindset. So for me, this is how to show up. So hopefully you felt my energy as I entered the room for my turn to speak. It's definitely something that is different online, and I think almost even more important than on stage, because body language on stage and being able to make that eye contact in person is different than me looking at your face, or in this case right now I'm looking at the camera in my presentation, I'm not looking at you. But by the way, please add questions anytime you have them throughout. I'm checking the chat also while I go, multitasking. All right, so I like this quote because I think it speaks to the fact that we're all, even as participants, playing a role in a meeting. You never know how you might affect someone else. Maybe that question that you asked was something that someone else wanted to ask, or maybe an answer to something that you gave was definitely something that hit home for another participant. So think about that too. Some days you'll be more active than others in these meetings, but I wanted to just point out too that it's not just the speaker's role that's important, that everyone kind of plays a part. All right, so shifting how you show up, I think there are several things to this, but I chose to focus on appearance, attitude, and awareness. Appearance, yes, how you look, you should be presentable. However, it's also the appearance of everything around you, right? You want to be free of distractions. I have this screen that I have behind me, which also has sort of become my sort of brand, as every video and every time I'm live or record a video, I have this behind me so that there are no distractions of you seeing anything that might be in my office or in my home behind me. But also what you wear, you may or may not know, but TV broadcasters are told to not wear pinstripes and to not wear like patterns that are fine, because then it kind of messes with the quality of the video. So that's something to think about. Wear solid colors, and just make sure that you don't have clutter around you, that your background is on brand or just super free of clutter. And attitude, that speaks to, like I said, like showing up with positive energy, something, a way that comes through the camera, because we have all this equipment between us, right? And then awareness is also a couple things. I have a friend who, she has an on-air sign and she puts it outside of her office whenever she's going live or recording a video. And so then her family, her husband and daughter, know not to bother mommy. Now we know it's super cute, right? When kids walk in the room, and that's okay, stuff's gonna happen. But you want to try to mitigate those kinds of things, especially if it's for a meeting that, there's thousands and thousands of viewers. You wanna make sure that you're super aware of what's going on around you, and make sure that you're aware maybe that none of your office mates, maybe your second grader, is not live streaming while you are giving your presentation or recording a video. So these are all things just to kind of think about. Again, not an exhaustive list, but just some top level things for you to know and for you to share with your speakers at your events. Okay, rehearsal. We talked about rehearsal. To me, rehearsal for an online experience is actually more important than in person, because your speakers are not just stepping on stage and being handed a mic and a clicker. They are, while there might be a production team that's, helping you plan it, you as a speaker in your own environment are your own IT team, right? You're the one that's managing all of your own equipment, your router, making sure your connection is good, making sure that you have good lighting and a good microphone and a headset. I recommend always use a headset, even if you don't have a mic. Use a headset, because the microphone on your computer is not good. So especially in terms of recording, if your session's being recorded. So these are things to think about just to make the audio better. So when you rehearse, I recommend using the same gear in the same way and at the same time of day if possible, because hey, your next door neighbor might mow their lawn at the time that you're presenting. And so if that's his routine on Thursdays and that's when you're giving your presentation, maybe you ask Joe the neighbor to could he wait an hour, or maybe do it earlier in the day or something like that. So I think timing your rehearsal is important to knowing what's going to be going on in your environment. Do all this and you'll get the same result every time, right? Yeah, maybe, but probably not, as evidenced this morning by the fact that we really tried to make it smooth in our transitions. And but when you're using two screens and there's multiple presenters, stuff just happens. So, and it's all good, like everyone understands, right? But with all this preparation, you're trying to mitigate as much of that as you possibly can. All right, so mix things up. Variety, I think, is important. As you notice, neither she or I had death by PowerPoint today, right? We had slides that have a little bit of information. Most of the content is coming from us. And I think this is a good thing to have. Sometimes several bullet points might be, you know, essential for a certain presenter, but I think that the emphasis for speakers should be on the content of what they're saying, and the slides should just be a supplement to the words coming out of their mouth. So in terms of these three things, these are just ideas to have your speakers have some variety. I had a conference that I spoke at recently where the speaker had 2 cameras. Now this is super fancy, you know, extra tech, right? But she had 2 cameras, and then she was able to change the perspective. So she's talking into this camera, she had another camera over here, and then she switched it, and it was just really cool to get a different angle. Just an idea. I say that it's fine within your events, depending on, especially if they're over multiple days, to have a variety of live and recorded content. I will say, if your content, if you have videos that are recorded, have your presenter be in that session in the chat to answer questions. So I think that I've gotten the most out of the sessions where, first of all, you think, oh, you're not even sure if it's recorded or not, right? That's the best kind of recorded video. But then, and then I'd see that I saw the speaker in the chat and I thought, oh, that's super cool. It gives a different sort of feeling. Because, you know, when you're in a room and a speaker's on stage, you can ask them questions when the time is right, but not in that same way. It's kind of different. So I think that it's great to have a mix of that. Having said that, and I didn't mention this in the rehearsals, I wanted to say, have your speakers record one of their rehearsals and share that video with you. Because if anything happens, then you don't have that time slot that's like all, you know, jammed up and like you don't have anything for it. So make sure that your production team, or whether that's you or hopefully you have a team that you're working with, has a copy of that presentation so that they can play that video if anything should happen to the speaker. And this third thing is, I think if the speaker is able to, in their environment, get their camera up or their laptop up, however, whatever camera they're using, if they can give it their presentation standing up, I think it gives a little bit of a different energy. Now, she's obviously giving a little cooking demo in that picture, but speakers who are, that's what they do for a living, they love being able to move around and get into it. As you can see, I talk with my hands a lot. So hopefully it's not distracting, but if I was standing and you saw more of me, it would be less, it would have less of an impact, right? So
Megan,
I think, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to interrupt there,
Yeah.
but I love standing up, and I've actually had someone say, you're moving too much. So that's something also to keep in mind. Like, I would love to have stood up and give the presentation today, but I think I would have been moving too much. So also just something to keep in mind. I've probably made Tracy feel seasick watching me rock on a camera.
That's funny. Yeah, if you're a walker, that's something different. So yeah, make sure that it's not distracting.
Because it's really hard to just stand on 2 feet the whole time. You're gonna like lean to one hip and then the other hip at some point.
Yeah, so make sure your camera angle, their camera angle is right. Again, I think just give it as an option if that speaker can do it, can pull it off in an appropriate way. So yes, Brianne said that FedEx delivery. I actually have a sign that I put on my door that says, "Recording live, do not knock." And so yeah, that's definitely something. So, so it's just some ideas to try to keep it fresh. Now, in terms of engagement, they say content is king. Well, engagement is queen. So, mix in some Q&A. As I said, you know, you can ask questions throughout. I like to ask when I'm live in a room, and you can do this online too, up front. Is there anything that you in particular were hoping to get out of this, you know, based on the session description? And then I can weave that through. And I've done that several times where I was able to weave one example of someone in the room throughout and say, this relates to that in this way. So, oh yeah, and I'll talk about my equipment here in just a sec. That's a great question. So, yeah, so mixing in the Q&A helps so that also you don't run out of time at the end. Because, we all do that, right? You're like, oh, I had no idea it was going to take this long, and now I have no time to answer any questions. Bye. And yeah, we'll provide the I'll provide the deck to Kira and Nikki to share with y'all. So this is just a blue ice microphone, and I have a jib it's just clamped onto my desk, and then it's plugged in via USB to my laptop. So you just have to make the settings, make sure that it picks up this for the audio. And then I just have a headset in, and this is only for me to hear y'all. I'm not using this as a mic at all. Like I was saying, that the microphones on your computer are not awesome. So as a podcaster, audio is super important to me. So yeah, so this is like my podcast setup, which has evolved now into being like my live video setup. Networking tools, the chat is a networking tool in Zoom, but there are some platforms out there that have really done a stellar job of working, matchmaking, and like kind of different ways to network with each other. Brello is one, Swapcard is another. The Cvent Connect session, I attended that the last couple days. Here kind of popped in and out, but one of their speakers did a really cool thing where she had all the different type of attendee do like a mock, they like interacted with each other. So that was super cool. I think Cvent also has a matchmaking capability. So a big reason we attend events is not just for content, it's to network. And so keeping that in mind with the programs that you select, I think is important, and providing ways for your attendees to do that. So, and then follow-up is, especially in those environments where they're asking questions, there's tons of attendees and they're asking questions throughout. If you don't get to a question, it's harder in Zoom because the chat goes with the host, but in those environments, go back and answer the questions because everyone wants to be heard, right, and be seen. So if you're following up with them, also, if I think speakers should find a way, everyone, they all do this, so it should go without saying, but providing a way for the participants to reach out to them, I think is super important. All right, so I love this Aristotle quote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit." So if you're, speakers get used to rehearsing and using the gear in the proper way, then I think that is important. These are some resources. If you are interested in learning more about how to be better on camera, Lights Camera Live is an awesome resource. You want to make sure that your up and down speeds are good, so you can do a speed test. I used Canva to create this presentation. Easel is another tool like that. And then I mentioned Brian Fanzo earlier. He shared his gear list on Amazon. So if you want to look at that, I know someone said, do I have suggestions for ring lights and that kind of thing? I don't have any specific, but if you check out that list, these are hot links. You'll definitely get those resources. And then in terms of what filter, it's just, it comes with this thing. It's of course I just lost the word for what it's called, but it's just basically to prevent the teas from popping. A pop filter, that's what it's called, a pop filter. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, any other questions? I wish you all luck in managing your speakers and managing yourself in meetings, and I hope that I provided you some tips that will help you moving forward. Any other questions? You can pop on if you'd like. Unmute yourself.
Megan,
I want to type it. Yeah, of course.
We get a lot of questions about creating packages that can be sent to speakers.
Yeah, like a tech, like the ring light and the, yeah.
Everything you're using, the microphone you're recommending, headphones, ring light.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting you say that too, because I have a client I'm working with right now. We're launching a video project and we're playing with like the ideas of what to do, sending them an iPhone 11 Pro and a tripod and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I haven't actually carried through on that, but yeah, I mean, it's an expense. It depends. Were you talking about having, are people asking about so they could be mailed back? Or that it's a gift?
They do both. It's more of like, can you send our speakers a package where they have all the things they need in it? Sometimes, a lot of times they just want to rent it, but a lot of the equipment that they actually need is inexpensive, where it almost makes more sense to just buy what you need on Amazon, ship it to them, and have them keep it.
Yeah, totally. I would do that. I would totally do that. Buy a ring light, and then, I was going to say this earlier. It's hard as a glasses wearer to be in a spot where the light's not reflecting on my glasses. And I try, whenever I see it, I try to put my head down so that doesn't happen, but that's just kind of going to happen. But that's because of my setup. I don't have a ring light. I probably should have another light kind of like to my left. If you have a light that's not directly facing you, that helps prevent that kind of glare. But yeah, I think that's a good idea, sending them what they need rather than counting on them to do it right. Especially because like when I have podcast guests, this is the thing for me, is like so much is out of my control. Their Wi-Fi connection is out of my control. So I try to ask everyone, use your landline. Whenever anyone uses a Apple headset, always crackling with the mic hitting their hair and hitting buttons and everything. So that's like, oh, it drives me nuts. But anyway, yeah. So
that's what was happening to me in the beginning.
Oh, I see.
Of this call.
That's funny.
I never wear them, but you know, it's when I'm in my family's house in Philadelphia right now, so there's lots of people running around. So I did, but I think that was part of our tech issues in the start.
That's awesome. But you're also getting to be with family, and that's amazing. I'm so jealous.
I got to come back east for the first time in 6 months, and
wow,
I flew everyone. I was like a kid on Christmas on the airplane. And it was empty in the airport and on the plane, and all felt very safe. So it felt good to be back in the saddle.
Fantastic. All right.
Perfect. Well, does anyone have additional questions for Kira or for Megan? You can feel free to chime in or throw them in the chat. Great. Well, I think we are good to go then. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I did want to mention our next digital event. It's going to be September 9th, and Yinka, who's actually on the call right now, she's going to be presenting on Remo, which is also another virtual platform. So hopefully you can join us then.